Welcome, esteemed guests, to the Darkstone Dossiers with your host, Anthony Darkstone.
Buonasera a tutti, buon noite, buenas noches, kumbangwa, and guten Abend. Why am I using all those languages? Because people watching the clip eventually and on this show come from different parts of the planet and in a different time zone. So a very good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you are joining us. For some time now, because of its heavy schedules, we've been going back and forth to try and get my guest on this show. Finally, yay, we did it. My guest, I first met him well over 25 years ago when my son was 17, who is now 44, so you do the math. He was very kind and noticed so many wonderful things about my son's act when he performed at the Magic Circle. We've stayed friends and we've chatted about all kinds of topics. We share a number of similar attitudes and interests, from movies, obviously magic, yes, but perhaps the slightly more finer points of magic which are not readily discussed. So I'm doubly delighted to have him here with us. He is an MIMC with a gold star at the Magic Circle, and to the very best of my knowledge, the only British magician to be featured in the Society of American Magicians Hall of Fame. And if you were lucky enough, as I was, to be taken up to the inner sanctum at the Magic Circle, as you walk inside and turn to your left, there's a wonderful photograph of my guest. So, you can't get much higher than an MIMC with a gold star, which, by the way, some of you may know, there are only 300 of them at any given point in time, and they are specially awarded after consultation with the Magic Circle Council, and they're awarded the president's say-so. It's not something you do an exam for. You literally earn it by your work. What have I left out about this man? Probably about 4,325,000 things. So there's a lot to be said about him. I want to go through different phases. We're not going to be able to cover everything. We just can't. But I want to stick with certain points that I know Michael is, for want of a better word, and it is a good word, is a master on these topics. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm really eagerly looking forward to this. We've often had lots of chats about different things, which some of which we will talk about today. So, without much further ado, let us bring to the screen Mr. Michael Vincent.
Hi there, Anthony.
Okay, there you are. Hello, Michael.
Hi there. Good to see you all. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. This is really special.
Yeah, it's really good to see you. Obviously,
Likewise.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that we can have this chat. We've had a few over the while, and nice to have this one with other folks sort of joining in as well. Now, Michael, I'll tell you what I want to start with. I'd like to start by getting your views on mentorship. Now, some people, and that's fine, think that a mentor, particularly in magic, is there to teach you how to do a cross-cut force, a double lift, or finding the aces. And that's fine. That's skill. That's technique. And that's what I would call coaching. Mentorship is something more than that, much more than that. And in fact, if we go back and research the Greek word from which it comes from, we'll see that it is more than that. I am blessed, honored, delighted that over the years I've had many wonderful mentors. One of them was dear Pat Page, who was a dear family friend and a wonderful mentor. And I've had the honor of performing with him in Ali Bongo up in Scotland on the same bill, etc., etc., etc. Now, I bring him up deliberately because those of you who know him and know his work will understand how blessed it is to have him as a friend and mentor. We were in the circle one time, and he said to me, "Come here, there's somebody I want you to meet." So we staggered over to well, not staggered, well, kind of, maybe we did, over to the bar. And standing at the bar was dear George Kovari Sr., who I already knew. And there was this other gentleman who my first impression of was, wow, this is what a leprechaun would look like. He had mischief in his face. He had kindness in his face. He had joy in his face. Little did I know that behind his face up here, he had tons of wisdom, as you can imagine. After we were all having a few drinks and chats and whatever, he, in fact, was inspirational for an article of mine called Magical Etiquette, which I wrote for MUM, the Society of American Magicians magazine, a few years ago. And I mention him in the article. Who was this man? Well, as I found out more about him then and over the years, remarkable. And he has, and still does, despite he is no longer in our realm, an incredible influence and effect on dear Michael. The gentleman I'm referring to was Alan Allen. I'll turn you over to Mike now, who will tell you a little bit about how he met Alan and what Alan means to him.
I think this is a great place to start because I am a product of mentoring. Just try and imagine for a moment what it was like trying to learn magic in the mid-1970s. The internet was always there, but it just wasn't as accessible to the masses as it is today. So if you wanted to learn any kind of subject, the obvious thing, certainly to me, was to go to the library and find books on magic in this case. And I started teaching myself magic before I was even aware that there were other magicians and magic shops that you could go and visit. So I got lost in the magic books, which we'll come to later. The books that I read had the addresses of all the top magic shops in London at that time. Hamley's toy shop on Regent Street. And if you go out the side entrance of Hamley's, you would end up on Kingsley Street, which is just off Regent Street. And the next adjacent road to Kingsley Street was Wardour Street. And on Wardour Street, 2 doors down, Ken Brooks' Magic Place. That was the first magic shop I went to. So Ken Brooks became my first mentor because that was the magic shop I went to. I spent a lot of my pocket money there and I bought some really great magic tricks from Ken Brooks. And I eventually got bored because I was looking for something. And keep in mind, I was about 13 years old at the time. I said to Ken, "Are there any other magic shops in London?" He said, "Yes, go to the opposite the British Museum." I said, "Where's that?" And he told me, Great Russell Street. I found it. It was a short walk. And inside Davenport's, I saw Jake Evans, shuffling a deck of cards with one hand. He was doing the Corsi one-handed shuffle. I was just so mesmerized when I saw that. I said, "Wow, how do you do that?" He said, "You got a deck on you, Sonny?" I said, "Sure, I'll teach you." Jake taught me the one-handed riffle shuffle there and then. He became a great friend of mine, and we were so cordial and friendly to each other right until his death. He was a clown, he did kid shows, but he had great chops, great sleight of hand. Spent a lot of money at Davenport's, and I got bored. And I said to Jake, "Are there any other magic shops?" And he said, "Come out the door, turn right, walk straight down, and you will see Alan Allen's Magic Spot, 88 Southampton Row, which at the time was right next door to the Bonington Hotel, Holborn." And when I walked into the shop appeared empty. I didn't see anybody. But what I did see that caught my eye was the bookshelves. All the books, some of the books that I'd got from the library were on the shelves in Alan's shop. Keep in mind, I didn't see anyone in the shop, so I'm looking at all the books, looking at the shelves, Harry Lorraine's Card Magic, the Magic Book, Toast of Card Magic. and I saw some names that I didn't recognize. Cyan Fields, Entertaining Card Magic, Diverner Book of Magic, Inner Secrets of Card Magic, The Tarbell Court. Wow, there's some really interesting titles. And then I heard out of on my right ear, young man, can I help you? And I looked around, I didn't see anyone. So I went back to looking at the shelves. And then again I heard, young man. And then I saw Alan, well, the top of his head, just the top of his head with a big safety pin through it. He had a pin through his nose. I said, oh, I didn't realize you were there. I didn't see anyone in the shop. Alan was a munchkin. He was a midget, a very short man. But don't confuse height with stature. I didn't know who he was. All I knew was there was this little man sat on a stool, but I didn't see him. He kind of blended into the background. He said, oh, so I said to him, oh, I'm okay, sir. I'm just looking at the books. He said, I noticed. What book are you looking at? I said, I like the Harry Lorraine book. He said, which one? The magic book. I've been borrowing it from the library. Key phrase. And I keep taking it out. And my mother said I should return it because they might think I've stolen it, which I did. So I thought time had come to buy my own copy. I've saved up my pocket money, so I want the Harry Lorraine magic book. He said, oh, that's a very good book. I said, I know, I've read it. He said, what do you mean you've read it? Well, I've been studying it for a while. I really like the way he writes. When I read Harry Lorraine, I feel like he's talking to me. He's got a very interesting way of communicating through the written word. And I feel like he's in the room talking to me, teaching me. Wow, are you telling me you've read this book, young man? I said, yes. Can you show me something? I said, yes. Right there and then I did a trick for Alan. And I could see his eyes flash like this. Anyway, I bought the book and then I left. And as I was walking out, young man, yes, sir? Will you be coming back again? I said, well, I don't know. I live quite far from here, but maybe. Well, I'm here. I would love to see you again. That's what he said to me. I'm about 13 at the time. So off I go. Guess what? I turned up the following Saturday. That is how I met Alan Allen at the age of 13, going on 14. Okay. And it was a life-changing event because there was another magician there, young boy, a year or two older than me. He said, Michael, I'd like to introduce you to Chris. And that's how I met Chris Wood. And Chris and I have been friends ever since. And Alan took it upon himself to coach both of us at the same time because we were slightly different and we were reading different types of books. But Alan's knowledge and database of experience could accommodate anybody. And he set us off against each other in terms of what we were doing just to keep us motivated. But I want to share with you something quite interesting about this whole mentoring thing, because I've got to go a little bit personal so you understand why mentoring is very important to me. I grew up without a father. I'm an only child raised by a single, literally mother. My mother never married. And try to imagine, young boy, only child, growing up with a mother that he loves, but no father figure, no role model. So I can honestly declare that a part of my psyche is profoundly underdeveloped simply because I have no point of reference to what it means to have a father say, I love you, son. Well done. I'm very proud of you. That means nothing to me. And the man that I knew as my father, well, guess what? I didn't like him that much anyway. So I thought to myself, I'll just get on with life. My mum loves me. That's enough. And I've made a new friend with Alan Allen. So guess what? I was in Alan's shop certainly every Saturday, but sometimes after school because I enjoyed listening to his stories. He spoke to me. I showed him magic. He enjoyed seeing me what I was working on, those tricks and so forth. And I found what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who could be my father. Does that make sense? I didn't have the language to express that at the time, but it's natural for any boy to wonder, well, where's my dad? all the other boys had dads. And then my mum told me, well, he's not around. Oh, okay. And then I went down the rabbit hole with my magic books. I got lost in all of it. And I didn't have time to worry about my father not being around or not having a father, because I knew there was one man on planet Earth that found me interesting, and that was Alan. Now, why did Alan find me interesting? He actually said so to me. He said, Michael, out of all the young boys that come into my joke shop, I find you fascinating. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, all the young boys come in, they buy stink bombs and jokes and be a nuisance to their neighborhood. But you come in looking for magic books, not tricks, but the books. And he said, what I find interesting about you, you learn the tricks on your own. Nobody shows you. So you translate the written word into something physical and bring it to life. Right. He said to me the magic words, you learn the magic, you learn the tricks, you bring it to me, and I will transform it into magic. I will direct your performance. He said, what time do you need to be home? I said, well, I close at 2 o'clock. What time do you need to be home? Well, I need to be home by 5 because that's when dinner's ready. He said, great. I want to introduce you to someone. So we get in a cab. We go to Old Compton Street, Valerie's Patisserie Cafe, and sat at the back, shuffling a deck of cards, was the movie director, Seinfeld. That's how I met Seinfeld in 1979, because Christmas had just passed, and my mother bought for me Stars of Magic and the Seinfeld book on card magic. Changed my life, those two books. And I said, oh, Mr. Enfield, I've got your book. Sit down, kid. Hey, Alan, how are you? He's American. I said, I think your book's fantastic. I like the stories. You make the tricks really interesting. He said, well, a trick without a great presentation is not a good trick. You start with a good trick, and then you've got to work even harder to tell a story with it. That's where I got my love of presentation from, because I had another great mentor, Seinfeld, and I knew Seinfeld right up until he died. So Alan did me a good turn by introducing me to Seinfeld. If you read the Seinfeld book, it's all about his life story. My name is mentioned, because they mentioned Seinfeld was a brilliant sleight of hand magician, and he was a mentor to Michael Vincent. It actually says he was a mentor to a brilliant black boy named Michael Vincent, who has become a great masterful magician in his own right. That made me so proud. And I'm sad that Seinfeld didn't live long enough to see what I've become, because I feel and I believe that he lives on in me, in my performances, Alan too. So a mentor for me is significant simply because Alan became my best friend. He was someone that I looked up to. He drove me crazy like a father would. I found him very abusive at times. He was brutal. He was honest. Sometimes he was vitriolic in his criticism of the way I was doing things. I never thought I'd be a good magician, because I would always leave his apartment feeling like the worst magician on earth. Why? Because he tore me to pieces. But I would always come back. Why? Because I was seeking his approval, the way a son would seek approval of a father. It would be 30 or 40 years before Alan would ever say to me, Michael, I'm very proud of you. By which time it had no impact on me, because I thought he was going to criticize me for something. Because I was so used to his criticism, I developed a thick skin. So people can say whatever they want to me, doesn't matter. I've had the best critic ever criticize me, and that was Alan Allen. Nobody can criticize me worse than Alan, and I mean that, no one. If anyone criticizes me, I just burst out laughing because they don't know what they're talking about. Seriously. And that's not ego, because Alan tore me apart and then rebuilt me into the magician that I've become. Okay? And what is sad today, the craft of magic has become so accessible. Young magicians today don't know their left hand from their right hand. They are overwhelmed with so much information. Look behind me. All the books on this particular shelf is probably in the library of most of the young magicians around the world. Where do they begin? when I was younger, I had time to read the books that I had purchased. I had time to practice some of the things. So by the time I spent my pocket money on the next magic book, I was already in the flow of learning, mastering sleight of hand, learning magic, learning how to put a script together, all of that. So yes, there was overwhelm because there was a lot to learn, but I loved it. And I was cherry picking certain things. Don't get me started on Marlowe, because once Marlowe came into my orbit, that was like another tunnel that I went down. And Marlowe, as you all know, was an author who presented the information with exacting precision, exacting detail, and there was no margin for error with Marlowe. You could either do it or not. But I knew one thing. If I put the practice in, I could do it. And guess what? I did. And Marlowe became another one of my mentors. Although I never met him, I developed a relationship with Marlowe through his book. Why? Because Alan, true story, I'm in the shop one day. I'd just seen David Copperfield do one of his specials, and he did the most beautiful presentation of the dancing cane. I was mesmerizing. And then he starts dancing with a beautiful lady. He hypnotizes her, and she goes to sleep. And then she starts levitating in the air. I go to the magic shop. I say, Alan, have you got a dancing cane? I said, yeah, what do you want a dancing cane for? That was Alan. I said, I just saw Copperfield. It looks beautiful. But you're not a stage magician. You're a sleight of hand man. Forget about that nonsense. So I was quite crushed when he wouldn't sell it to me. So I'm looking around, and I see a book sticking out of a box, The Side Steal by Ed Marlowe. I'm like, watch my head. Oh, Ed Marlowe. Alan, who's Ed Marlowe? Ah, now you're talking. But if he says to me, if you go down the tubes in Marlowe, you'll never come back. So what do you mean? They said, well, he's an engineer. Think Einstein and science. That's Marlowe to card magic. Really? Well, I'm learning the side steal from expert card technique. I can do the daily version. I'm just wondering, is the Marlowe booklet any go? He says to me, Michael, that is chapter 4 of Revolutionary Card Technique. It was published in the 1950s. And like I said, Marlowe was a research scientist. How do you know? So, well, I met him, of course. When? It's 1956 at the combined SAM-IBM convention in Chicago. Really? You met Marlowe? He said, yes. Tell me more. He said, we had just done our stage show. We're in the diner or wherever it was. And I see this slickly dressed gentleman. He was impeccable. He looked like George Raft, the gangster from Angels with Dirty Faces. His hair was jet black. He had a very sallow complexion, jet black, slick grip, brill cream hair, cufflinks. He looked like a gangster. But my God, he could handle a deck of cards. So I approached him. I said, Mr. Marlowe, my name is Alan Allen, and I have come to Chicago on the express wishes of Alex Elmsley. Ah, gee, Alex Elmsley. I like Elmsley. Yes, Mr. Elmsley has asked me to ask you to show me the side steal. Really? Oh, I've got a deck of cards, sis. I'm going to do what Marlowe did for Alan. Okay. So Marlowe has Alan peek at a card. Okay. And without a false move, all he does is square the deck up right at the fingertips, and he shows the 6 of hearts on top of the deck. So check this out. Alan had just seen Marlowe do the side steal. And Alan says to Marlowe, thank you very much. I'll be on my way. So Alan turns to walk out of the diner. Said, where are you going? He said, no, Mr. Elmsley told me to ask you to do something for me. You've done it. I've seen it. I don't need to see any more. I can go back and report. He said, sit down. I saw your act the other night. You were fantastic. Let's have a coffee and a conversation. So Marlowe and Alan became friends. That's how they met. Okay. And Alan says to Marlowe, there's a trick of yours I really like that was published in Genie. It's called Ace X Ace. It's a sandwich trick. So Marlowe does it for him, and they start talking. And here's another true story connected to this event. Marlowe says to Alan, are you going to stick around for a few minutes? A friend of mine's coming. I'd like you to meet him. I think the two of you will get on like a house on fire. So this other gentleman comes into the diner. Ah, Tony, come on over. I want you to meet a gentleman I've just met. This is Alan Allen from London. Alan, this is Tony Slidini. Marlowe introduces Slidini to Alan. Alan looks at Slidini and says, so you're the magician everyone's copying, going around. Now watch. I'm going to show you some beautiful magic. I said, I've never been so embarrassed in my life watching these English magicians pretending to be you. You've got a lot to answer for. He said, and Slidini goes, what you mean? I'm only one Slidini. Nobody likes Slidini. Well, I beg to differ, Mr. Slidini. So that's how they met. And when they were parting company, Slidini says to Alan, Mr. Allen, you come to New York? Yes. You come to Slidini house. I make spaghetti. That's how Slidini and Alan became friends in 1956.
You did eventually, I think, get round to actually meeting Slidini, Di Vernon. You've performed for Muhammad Ali, Princess Diana, and a whole ton of...
All of that came later.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, Anthony, regarding Slidini, I heard those stories 1978, 1979. I bought the Slidini book in 1979 by Ganson, the Ganson book.
Louis Ganson, yep.
I started doing all of this nonsense because Alan told me to learn everything in the book. And he said, when you've learned everything, throw the book away. He said, why? Because I want you to internalize Slidini's concepts. True story. I'm in the shop. Alan says to me, Michael, how would you like to meet Slidini? I said, what do you mean? Is he coming to London? He says, no, we have to go visit him. And I said to him, where does he live? He lives in New York. He said, well, my mother's not going to let me travel to New York with a man she doesn't know. She says, well, let me speak to her. I'll convince her. Oh, okay. So the following Saturday, my mum comes to the shop. He walks in. I'm already there. And she looks. I said, Mum, this is Alan. He wants to talk to you. And my mother says to Alan, I'm like this. My son tells me you want him to go to New York. Why? He says, well, he's a good magician now, but if he meets Slidini, he'll never be the same magician again. What do you mean? He said he'll be on his way to becoming one of the world's greatest magicians. What, my Michael? I said, yes, your Michael will become one of the greatest magicians ever if he meets Slidini. And now's the perfect time to do it because Slidini is alive, he's well, and it will be a life-changing event. What, you really think so? Oh. So my mother looks at me, says, okay, you can go. And my mother says, don't come home with something you didn't leave with. But she let me go to... She didn't meet Alan again until many years later, but that was a one and only meeting. But she said, yes. Now stop and think for a moment. You hear of child kidnapping, people trafficking, all sorts of nonsense happening to people. But my mother had a very open, trusting spirit. She let me go to New York with a man she hardly knew. And I'm so grateful to Alan because he took care of me. I was 18 at the time. I'm in New York. I'm in Slidini's apartment. And he was coaching me on his system. I'd read about him in his book. I saw Slidini on television, Christmas Day, 1978, Dick Cavett Magic Show. And I saw and I was blown away, Anthony. Can you imagine that?
I can indeed. Well, I tell you what, we want to talk about, you have talked about books and their influence. Now, I happen to know that a very dear mutual friend of ours, who's here, dear Mr. John O'Riordan, also is a great fan of books.
Yes.
I'm a great fan of books. I'm considerably older than you, Michael, and as you say, when I was kind of starting out, that's all we had was books. That's it. Books, nothing else. You either got them and had to learn something from it. Many here today will know, probably even have a copy of this, which is Magical Meditations put out by Ami. And I recall with great fondness, there are 13 different contributors to this, major names. People are interested, I'll put it up on the chat later, how you can go and have a look at what it's all about. one of the contributors, when I came, I approached you and I said, listen, I've got this idea at AMI, and this is what we're trying. This is the hard cover that's also available from Amazon in a soft cover. I'd like you to please contribute an article, Michael. Now, you very kindly, without a second thought, went, yes, without even sort of going, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? Should I do it? What? No, you just went, yes. I thought, wow, great. We've got Michael as one of the contributors to this. And, well, who better than from all the books? And none of the people knew till the book was published. The 13 contributors had never, ever seen what the other ones had written till it was actually physically published. After much to and froing anyway, there we are. We finally got the book done after months and months of stuff like that. And coming to Michael, I got his article. I went, wow. Wow. Here is a man who's talking about something that's deeply personal. I'm just flicking through here. Let me get to the contents page for a second, so I know I don't get the title of what he says, what is said here. Yeah, here it is. Mental Health, page 105. A quest for deeper understanding. I read that 6 times, and when our editor read it, we were both, wow, because that came from the heart. If you are in show business of any kind, magician, dancer, singer, whatever, actor, whatever, there are the ups and downs of normal life. They are amplified when you become a performer, even if you're a hobbyist. And just they're amplified because you're affected with emotions that most normal people don't feel. Because most normal people don't stand up in front of an audience of 2, 3, or 3,000. That affects you. Think of any great actor, singer, dancer, whatever, magicians as well. We can all reel off a couple of names that have been affected by mental health. Now, mental health does not mean you're insane. Mental health is how the mind copes with stress, everything from grief onwards, and why it's important for any type of performing art. Now, if you've got the book, which I know some of you have here, and you read Michael's piece, it is truly mind-opening. I expected something from Michael to do directly with magic, a move or something like that. I had never asked any of I left the authors to give me whatever they wanted, the contributors. I never said, write on this or write on that. They all choose their own topic, as it were. So what I'd like to do, Michael, if you don't mind, is to ask you to please share, if it's not too personal, some of the effects of your mental health with your mum's passing, Alan's passing, how you lost your hearing. I'm not saying things to people that they don't know. You publicly mentioned these things. And I think it would be inspirational for people watching this clip or listening to us right now to look at this great international star and say, hey, you know what? He's gone through all this as well. And talk to us about
mental health. For me and mentoring go hand in hand, because when I met Alan, I didn't know it at the time, but I was dealing with trauma, very personal trauma. My mother's brother was murdered. He was stabbed to death. So I experienced my mother heartbroken. And I didn't understand what had happened. I didn't understand the depth of her sadness. So my mother's shock and trauma impacted me. I'm 8 years old when I had this experience. My uncle had been murdered. And my mother went through some other heartbreaks before I met Alan. So once I started learning magic, magic became a buffer and a quantum of solace. I love that phrase. Magic became a measure of comfort for me because I could focus my mind on something that made me happy. So studying magic without realizing it became the foundation upon which I built a very powerful mindset for myself. But my mental health really struggled when I met Alan, because a moment ago I mentioned how honest and critical he was of me. I grew up with a lot of criticism. I did not grow up with anybody encouraging me. I got into fights at school. I was bullied mercilessly by the other black boys at school. I'm mixed race. So the other black boys took it out on me. They looked at me and said, "Oh, you're not black enough." I said, "What are you talking about? Excuse my language. I need to speak truthfully and honestly here, because I was growing up in a world that made no sense to me. It made no sense for someone to speak to me like that. It made no sense to be physically attacked for being different." So that part of my psyche did not get healed until I shared it with my therapist, who I speak with once a week. Her name's Marianne. She lives in South Africa. We speak on Zoom every Wednesday morning for 1 hour. So she's helped me over the last 3 years since my mom died to unpack my childhood and to reparent the little fella, as I call him, little Mike. And she's helped me to understand and to bring peace to a lot of the trauma that wasn't mine. It was other people's, my mother's. And growing up inside that bubble where all of this stuff happened impacted me, even though it wasn't mine. Right. So my mental health took another hit big time when Alan invited me to his home, and on a particular Saturday afternoon, he would put on a videotape, and it would be, one week we'd be watching Luciano Pavarotti, another week we may be watching the old Frank Sinatra TV shows. Sinatra was magnificent, but I became interested when he showed me Nat King Cole. Oh, and Sammy Davis Jr. and Louis Armstrong and the Nicholas brothers, black people. Check this out. So I'm watching Nat King Cole, Sammy Davis, and I said to Alan, I'm about 18 or 19 now, and I said to Alan, listen carefully. I said, Alan, do you think I will be accepted as a black magician? And he said, oh, well, I don't see why not. Nat King Cole was accepted. Sammy Davis was accepted. And I looked at Alan and I said, no, they weren't. He said, what do you mean? Nat King Cole and Sammy Davis Jr. were never accepted by anybody. They were tolerated. What do you mean, Michael? Come on, Alan, you're a smart man. They were tolerated, not because they were black. They were tolerated simply because they could do it. They were great artists, great singers, great performers, and great as they was, they generated a lot of money for the people that was running things. So Alan looks at me and he says, well, Michael, I now see your point. You surprise me. For someone so young, you're quite aware. I said, well, I'm not blind. I see how black people have been treated. I'm aware of racism. And I said to him, I don't know how the world's going to see me, but I can anticipate that I may not be treated well, even though I'm talented and I can do magic well. He said, well, Michael, I challenge you to become so great, you make people colorblind.
How?
I said, well, if I could do that for a 30-minute show or an hour show, that would be miraculous. Because in the time frame of my show, if I can make an audience colorblind, they will forget for a moment that they have been seduced and inveigled and completely psychologically discombobulated by a black man. But here's the beautiful thing, Alan. If I can achieve that, maybe I can reframe how they relate to people of color forever. I may not live long enough to see that narrative transform, but at least I can be right at the beginning as someone who initiated that conversation. I had this conversation with Alan when I was 19. I didn't know what I was really talking about, but I was speaking from a place within myself where my natural intelligence put two and two together. Bing! If I can make people colorblind, they'll forget they're watching a black man, but they're relating to someone who's an artist, who's technically brilliant, And they will forget for a moment, but wait a minute, he's black. Like, the color of my skin's got anything to do with it. Well, it has a lot to do with how people think they can treat me, but it has nothing to do with my expertise and my artistry as an artist. But unfortunately, those two entities get collapsed. And it becomes a very difficult thing to manage and navigate. Well, guess what? I'm 62 years old now. I handle these conflicts with great ease now than I ever did. Why? Because I've been through the fire of it all. And I now understand what is at stake for everybody, not just for me as a black man, but for everyone in how we relate to each other as human beings. Okay? So, mental health, that's just the beginning of it. Nowhere on the trajectory of my life did I ever anticipate that I would wake up one morning and lose my hearing. Being an only child, nowhere did I ever anticipate giving up my career to become a full-time carer and witness the slow and gradual deterioration of my mom and see her take her last breath. I knew intuitively that we're not going to live forever, but I didn't see it on my lifeline. I saw Alan take his last breath. And I walked out of the hospital like, my God, he's gone. And I walked home from Euston all the way back to Maidvale. I didn't take the train. I didn't want to be underground. I just wanted to be above ground. I walked home. The impact of Alan's death didn't hit me until a few weeks later. I was in the West End. And as I normally do, I'll be doing what I'm doing. I thought, let me go and see Alan. Check this out. I start walking in the direction of his home. I'm about 5 minutes from his home, and then it hit me. He's not there anymore. I turned around and came home. Sometimes I'm in my house and I can feel my mother's presence. I live here. I'm in my home. I can feel her presence, but I'm on my own. I'm not lonely. I'm just on my own. So, mental health. How do we navigate the trauma that can destabilize us? With great difficulty, because there's no training for dealing with such things. Because the way we're wired as human beings, this is something I'm grateful for. I'm a graduate of Landmark Education. Let me share this. The Landmark Forum was created by a man named Werner Erhard, who created the S program back in the 1970s. Big training event. It became the Forum, and then it became the Landmark Forum. I did the Landmark Forum, which grew out of Werner Erhard's S program. Just check YouTube, see some of his videos. This man is quite fantastic. And on this program, the one thing that landed on me with great power was life just happens. You wake up one morning, you get a phone call, and it's going to upset you for the whole day. But what can you do about it? There's a point in your brain where you look at an event and you think, my God, what's happened here? And then you make up a story about it in your mind. Your mental health is now on red alert. You add meaning to what has happened. You make a decision that now impacts your entire behavior for the rest of your life. None of us come into this world without some degree of trauma. Now, who we are today is in direct proportion to the stuff that's happened in our respective lives. So all you need to do is look at the life you've lived. Look at all the crap you've had to endure. You guys are all heroes because you're here. You survived it. I survived it. And the person that I am today is in direct proportion to the choices I made and the healing that I've taken on for myself. I sought help. I speak to a therapist. He reframes everything for me. And she's supporting me to have a better relationship with myself. I've forgiven my father. He did his job. I'm at peace with my mom not being here. And here's the beautiful thing. in spite of all of that, my quantum of solace, my measure of comfort, has been magic. The fact that I can go out and still put on a great show in spite of all of my sadness. When I do my show, I come home reasonably happy. I thought, wow. And then I look at the videos that I recorded, I edit them, put them on YouTube, and I watch them as a layman. I thought, damn, that's good. I give myself a pat on the back. I did that. Nobody else. I'm not saying this to be ego. I'm giving myself a lift because I've got nobody around to do it for me. I go, yeah, that's Vincent. That's the V. Why do I do that? Because I'm tricking my brain into thinking and believing, yeah, I can do this. I'm good at this. So keep doing it. It keeps you mentally healthy. When I took up photography, when I lost my hearing, it allowed me to engage with life and the world in a different way. Click, one photograph at a time. Click, I couldn't hear anything. But here's the beautiful thing. Photography forced me to engage with people. How? By talking to them. But I can't hear anything. Lip reading. Why? Because I love the human face. I love taking portraits of people. Check out my Instagram, Mike V Studio. You'll see all the people that I have met on my travels. Click, you'll see all their pretty faces. This has been my therapy for myself because it allowed me to keep my connection with life. Photography is much more than taking pictures. It's for my mental health. Okay, I took hundreds of images of my mom. I have tracked my mother's dementia from the moment I gave up my career. This beautiful woman into this very old, frail, and vulnerable being. It reached a point where she could no longer speak to me because she lost control of her motor functions for chewing food. So I would have to feed her very slowly. Okay, Mom, just swallow gently. Okay. And then she would hold my hand like this. And then she would fall asleep. And I would have to physically pick her up and carry her to bed. I didn't realize how strong I was. Pick my mom up, put her to bed, and then give her a shower the next morning. Social services would come in and support me. 3 years of it. And when my mom left, nothing. Silence. Empty space. Me and my thoughts. What kind of magician am I going to be moving forward? 2023, I did Britain's Got Talent. Worst thing I ever did. I regret going on that show. And I will regret that until the day I die. I should never have done it. I won't talk much about it, but that was on my trajectory, so I did it. And it's funny enough, I got a standing ovation. What do you expect? I'm Michael Vincent. I can do it. But I should never have done it. I should never put myself in that position where the whole world could see me as a vulnerable person, live on camera, breaking down because my mom had, I just buried my mom the week before. The following week, I'm on Britain's Got Talent. So 2023, I began to speculate. I'm not going back into the corporate world. I'm not going to do walk around gigs anymore. I had enough of it. I don't enjoy approaching people because I hadn't mastered the art of managing my mental health and being told to go away. I thought, no, I'm not going to go into that. If somebody wants me to entertain at a wedding, I'll do it. Because weddings are quite light-hearted and friendly. Everyone's happy. So how are you going to share your magic? And that was the birth of Michael Vincent Showtime. I put on my own shows. I find venues. I rent the space. I sell tickets. Simple. I've been doing that 2 years. I've got 2 shows. Intimate Miracles is all close up, and Elegant Deceptions is the full 1 hour show. And I've just written a brand new show, which is called An Evening with Michael Vincent, Transformational Magic. An evening of transformational magic. What does that mean? I believe when you experience magic, something happens in the brain. If it's done well and the magic is pure and exquisite, it becomes an existential moment that completely transforms your relationship to reality. I've experienced this with Slidini. I experienced it with all the greats, Renee Levon, Tommy Wonder, Michael Skinner, Roger Klaus, Patrick Page, Seinfeld, all the greats, even Fred Capps on television. And my point of view of reality shifted. Wow, maybe I could be a great magician. So when a layman comes to see my show, when they leave, I want them to engage with life in a way they've never done before. And I've written a script, which I'll share with you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed my show. But more than just enjoying the show, I'd like you to take a moment on your way home tonight and process the experience you've had. You've experienced some of my finest illusions. And I hope it's left you with the feeling that magic feels real. Well, guess what? If it feels real, then it does, because inside of you right now is the feeling that magic is real. And with that feeling, how can you relate to life that anything less than the miracle that it is, anything less than the miracle that you are part of that? We were all created from stardust. We're standing on a ball of rock called Earth that was once dust and molecules. Took 4.4 billion years to evolve into a stable environment. But just consider, we were created out of that. So reality and our experience of reality has to be in direct proportion to our soul. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely, Michael. Sorry,
go
ahead.
This is how I relate to myself. I relate to myself as a miracle, nothing less. So anyone that treats me less than a miracle, guess what? I will show them the miracle that I am by the way I deal with them.
Well, we have talked about this amongst many topics over. I'm going to refer to the book again, and I have good reason for doing this, as you will see. One of the authors of this is some guy called one of the contributors, Anthony Darkstone, and the title of my article is called "Getting Out of Your Way."
Yes,
now,
that's it.
I'll give you 1,000 guesses where I got that from. I bet you'll get it in one. It was from a conversation from Michael, where a lot of performers, and hey, this is not a criticism of anybody. It's a deep observation of mine, of Michael's, and indeed many good pros and other good magicians. I think if you go there to kind of look at me, how clever I am, and your ego's leading, then it'll work. But hey, you know what? It's not going to work for the audience. It just really isn't. Amongst my students and Michael's students, one of the things I say to them, don't worry about other magicians. 99.9% of them are not qualified to make a statement about your magic. They're really not. And you can see this for yourself when you look at all the various magic groups on Facebook. Somebody will ask something and there's about 4,529 million or whatever it is comments. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Seriously, you just don't. But that's just people think they know, but they don't. So my philosophy, based on something Mike and I talked about, is get out of your way. Get out of your way. Focus on some of the things Michael was talking about, of how you create that performing character, scripting, etc. If you're an AMI certified member and you go to our secret AMI certified members page, you'll see a couple of clips there with John O'Riordan, Mark Williams, and Michael, of course, about scripting, about audience management, all these things. We can't go into everything today, but they're there and they're important. They're important to do and to learn. Speaking of things to do and to learn, one of the things that Michael and I enjoy chatting about are movies. And our favorite movies, well, certainly two of mine, are what I call the real Bond films with Sean Connery. That's it. I mean, hey, you know what? Sir Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan and Timothy Dalton and all these other guys, yeah, they were okay. It was a nice movie. But you know what? So Sean Connery was a tough act to follow. That was it. He was Bond. End of story. That was it. So feel free to disagree with me, throw things at me. That's fine, but I'll still take that view. Michael brought that up when he spoke about one of the titles, Quantum of Solace. Now, I'm referring to movies and to these Bond movies in particular, because Michael and I have, and I'd like him to share this, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I loved the performance and presentation of magic. And this is what Michael does so well. Now, some of you may have noticed that when he comes on, he's got his hand in his pocket. I'm going to tip where he got it from. That was Sean Connery in Dr. No. Now, what does that say? Is it arrogance? No. Is it ego? No. It's just confidence. I'm 007. I've got a Walter PPK 7.63 millimeter under my left shoulder. I'm going to walk into this room because I've got a 00 before my 7. I'm allowed and licensed to do that. Now, Michael has taken that to the nth degree. For me, and I'm going to get really personal here, take off my professional host face, I thought, brilliant, because it's not just conveying that in the first 3 seconds of his entrance, it's also setting them up for the next 30, 40 minutes or 60 minutes. So when he does put his hand in his pocket again for whatever he needs to do, it's a perfectly normal gesture. And the reason, I'll give you my personal reason, I shouldn't as the host, I know it's all about Michael, not me, but I've shared this with some people and I'll talk about it afterwards. I have this whenever I take applause. I tend to keep my hand here and do this. Yes, this is my gesture. It's just a little nod of the head. As I got older, I, made that a little bit more obvious to the audience. And I do that throughout, even if there's a faint clap or a smile, and it's just kind of, well, thank you very much. It's an acknowledgement. What they don't know is that I have a little pocket sewn in my 3 tuxes. In those is a thumb tip. So when I do need to do that, my thumb is already in there and steals the tip. It's not brilliant. It's not anything. It's just as Michael was saying, focus outside of that. Focus outside getting in your way. So you can imagine my thrill and delight when we talked about this walking on with his hand in his pocket. What that conveyed to people. And if I may quote you, Michael, and I don't mean this, and I mean this in a sincere way, all of us have had what, if we're lucky, 5 seconds to make an impression when we first come on or stand behind the table. All of us, it doesn't matter who you are. Now, when you're a black person or a person of mixed race like myself, you're going to have to use those 5 seconds well, extremely well. Because in Michael's case, not so obvious in mine, but in Michael's case, the first thing is, yeah, and the mind goes, oh, it's a black guy. It's a black guy. He walks on, exuding this confidence, this friendliness, and they go, well, that's what I feel, a black guy. Well, that's what we can do. And he does it, and he engages with that audience. There is no... He's the only magician I know of. I mean, probably you know somebody, but I don't. I've been in this business for a very, very long time. I'm 79 in July, and I've been around. I don't know of any other magician who walks on or starts a show and there is no 4th wall. All of us at some stage put up and bring down, obviously, the 4th wall, etc., etc. This lovely, lovely man just walks on with his hand in his pocket. After that, what's that old cliche? He's got the meeting out of his hand. Want to talk about that a little bit, about Bond, the movies?
Yes.
And
I want to share with everyone how I arrived at this because it's quite interesting. One of my favorite books was written by Napoleon Hill, and that book is called Think and Grow Rich.
Great book for magicians. I recommend everyone to read it, any magician to read it.
That book, it changed my life because in this book, towards the end, Napoleon Hill writes about the mastermind group. And I'll paraphrase. He said, you've probably never heard of this, but I'd like you to give this your deepest consideration. Consider creating your very own mastermind group. This will be a group of individuals whose counsel you can draw on at any time throughout your business growth and endeavors. Now, the people in your mastermind group can be dead or alive. It doesn't matter. Because in your imagination, in your mind, your brain can't tell the difference between something you've thought of and created versus something you've experienced. But we've got to supply the necessary emotion to bring it to life. So get out a piece of paper and write down a list of 12 people who you really admire. So let me give you my list. Top of the list, Jesus Christ. So I go right through the list of history. Jesus, Michelangelo, Robert Houdin, Hofzinser, Nate Leipzig, Max Malini, Paul Rossini, Fred Capps, Cardini, Channing Pollock, James Bond, fictitious character, Muhammad Ali. Now, why did I choose these individuals? This was the next part of the exercise. Why Jesus? I said, well, if I was to have a dinner party, do you know what? Jesus would be enough. I wouldn't need to invite anybody else because Jesus represents the totality of everything in terms of how a man could be in the world, conduct himself, share himself, be compassionate for himself and others, to express love, empathy, joy, warmth, humanity. This is such a beautiful thing. Why? When I was a boy, I saw a film called The Greatest Story Ever Told, starring Max von Sydow, who played Jesus. Charlton Heston played John the Baptist. It moved me. I'm about 6 years old when I saw this film. So Jesus has been in my consciousness ever since, more so because of my mom as well, because she went to church every Sunday. Right. So Robert Houdin, the father of modern magic. Classy, dignified, well-dressed, intelligent, a gentleman, conducts himself with class and dignity. Hofzinser, a contemporary, same style. Nate Leipzig, Max Malini, vaudeville magicians doing close-up magic on stage, but dignified and classy and charming. I saw myself doing that. Paul Rossini, he had his whole show in a briefcase and did a banquet hall. Wow. And he was classy and dignified. Channing Pollock, tall, debonair, handsome, the doves, straight spine, hardly smiled with his eyes. Twin doves, Cardini, cheeky, funny, magic happening to him so he could respond to that. But the audience never realized how technically brilliant he was. Why? Because all this stuff was happening, but he didn't know how to control it. That was the act. Let's talk about James Bond. Why did I choose Bond? I'm so glad that I saw Sean Connery as a boy before the Roger Moore era. What films did I see? I remember Dr. No and From Russia with Love and Goldfinger. I think From Russia with Love is one of the best Bond stories ever. But let's talk about Bond, the created being. I didn't know that he was an orphan. That came much later. What I saw was a man that was cool, he was calm, he was intelligent, he was confident, he had the hand in the pocket, and he looked you straight in the eye. And that introduction in Dr. No gave me a template to work with. I admire your luck, Mr. Bond. James Bond. That introduction is one of the greatest introductions of a fictitious character ever captured on film. No actor after Connery got the timing right.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
the pitch, the tonality, the delivery, but the being behind it. The name's Bond. James Bond. I have no objections. Miss Trent, tell me, do you play any other games? What do you mean? Dinner, my place, tomorrow night. Here's my card, Universal Exports. Next, he's on his way home. Where does he find the woman? In his Pele house. Okay? It's a story, but here's the point. The being of Bond is such that if you understand his backstory, you'll understand that James Bond is a man who understands one thing about life. It can end at any moment. So if it can end at any moment, well, the world is not enough. Life is not enough. Why? Because he grew up witnessing the death of both of his parents. He became an orphan at a young age, and he experienced the impermanence of life. So he had to get over that trauma. He ends up at MI6, but more importantly, he realizes he's going into a field of endeavor where his life can end at any moment. Well, guess what? What's the point? You can wear the finest clothes. You can eat the most delicious food. You can sleep with the most gorgeous women. You can drive the coolest cars. Q Branch can give you the most life-saving gadgets. But the world is not enough. So his being and attitude towards people, take it or leave it. You can never satisfy me, never, because the world is not enough.
And then the other point, if I may just jump in here, Michael, please.
Go for it, Anthony.
Is the attitude of this character, to me anyways, my interpretation, and you and I have chatted about this, is I don't have anything to prove to myself, and I don't have anything to prove to you.
Yes.
It's acceptance on his own personal level. Yes, I know it's a fictional character. However, it's on his own personal level and with the world at large, the audience. You know, there's this guy lying in Goldfinger, lying on the whatever it is he's lying on, and this laser's coming at him. And, you know, it's this classic line. He's not like, get me out of here or whatever. He's just like very cool, you know, allowing that, you know, I can go at any moment, particularly not like this. I'd like to be shot, but not like this. And he just, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. I mean, what? That the whole scene is, you call me crazy if you will, but that tells me how to relate to an audience. Doesn't matter if you're a comedy magician, you're just a hobbyist magician, you're just doing a few things for 2 or 3 people, you're on TV or a 2,000 full theater. It's kind of, well, yeah, I'll just do this because I know so well what I'm doing, even if I'm dying.
You've just triggered a thought which helps me to appreciate Bond even more. James Bond understands the impermanence of life, even for himself. He wants nothing and he expects nothing from anyone. If there's one thing that Bond does want, is loyalty, because he's loyal to Britain, he's loyal to M, and he's loyal to his duty to Queen and country. So, somewhere in my psyche, I decided I want my audience to experience me as a black man as the happiest man on earth. No exception. The minute I'm introduced, wow, you may not see this on my videos, but they're showing up more because I'm shooting more wide angle. The first thing I do, I shake hands with the person on the far end of the row. I want to thank you so much for coming. I'm so thrilled you made it. And if it's a lady, I will say to her, Miss, I had a problem putting on my bow tie. Is it straight? Sometimes the lady will reach forward and do this. So, all right, thank you, sweetheart. And then I'm off. The whole audience is watching me relate to these two people. This is very powerful. So by the time I hit center stage, joy, happiness, my whole being is, I'm so pleased you made it. I've got something wonderful to share with you. And here's the most important thing, everyone. When I perform my magic, I am the happiest man on earth. Why? Because the audience is going to experience why I'm so happy. I'm going to be sharing with them routines, all of which are at least an 8, a 9, or a 10 on the Richter scale of impact. Nothing below an 8. Strong magic from beginning to end, because I want the audience to be off balance emotionally throughout my show. But there's going to be light and shade where I level off and then hit them again, let the emotion drop just a bit with maybe a little fun and games, a bit of rapport building, rapport, connection, and engagement, and then hit them again with something really strong. So the strongest thing I do in my 20-minute set is the linking rings. It looks and feels like real magic. Why? Because the audience gets to examine every single ring in my routine. And then I link them and unlink them. I know it's the strongest trick because they come up to me afterwards and said, Michael, I thought I knew how that trick was done, but I can't understand it. What do you mean? Well, you let us examine the rings. I said, now you know what magic feels like. Done. So here's the most important thing. And I think this is where a lot of magicians let themselves down. When they step out in front of an audience, they're begging for the audience to accept them and love them. And this mindset means they want something from the audience, and the audience can smell that, and they don't have any respect for you. An audience wants to be in presence of someone that wants to give them something.
Absolutely.
And if it's palatable, if it's digestible, if they receive it well, guess what? They will love you. The audience must feel and sense from you that you want nothing from them. You expect nothing from them. Why? Because you've got it all to give.
That, if anything, is the absolute, real secret of performing arts, and especially for magic, because you're asking people, grown-up people, to accept something that some corner of their psyche is saying, well, this is not real. But they get to the stage where when someone like you performs, where dear, lovely, beautiful, God rest his soul, many blessings for his memory. Dear Eugene had this. Somehow, he made everybody feel like they were the most important thing in the room. Everybody. It didn't matter what he did. Yes. So magicians look at dear Eugene in most magicians, I'll qualify that, look at him in a whole different light to how lay people used to look at him. Totally. And it wasn't acting. He meant it. It came from the heart. If you're not performing from here, shoot me down in flames if you wish. Well, that's just my point of view, and I think Michael will agree with me. If you're not performing from here at the heart, if perhaps not all of it, but some of it, then you shouldn't be performing anything, singing, dancing, musician, and especially a magician.
Do you remember Eugene wrote a book called The Secrets of Restaurant Magic?
Yeah, vaguely, a long time ago, yeah.
A very thin
book. Yeah, that's the booklet, more or less, yeah.
I got my money's worth in the first sentence. The opening effect is you.
Yep. It's what we said about walking on, that first 5 seconds.
The opening effect is you. So when you walk out on stage in front of an audience, what effect are you giving the audience by your being, your presentation? Are your shoes polished? Are you wearing a well-cut suit? Do you carry yourself well in that suit? Are you confident, looking impeccable? Do you look $1 million? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Watch most magicians when they come out on stage. It's a horror story.
Sadly so, yeah.
I'm being straight here.
No, you're right, sadly, yeah.
And this has an impact on the audience's impact of your magic. Because the audience wants to feel they're in the presence of someone who's comfortable within themselves and know what they're on about. Okay, I can relax. Entertain me.
Yeah.
And
sorry, Michael, it's something you're not doing to them. It's something you're doing for them.
Yes.
All of this comes together. You're giving it. It's for them.
Yes.
And people are not stupid. They sense it. They understand it.
One of the things I find really interesting is right now in my studies is how quickly can I build rapport with people? And there's a lot of crossover between me as a photographer, a portrait photographer, and a performing magician. Because let me give you the metaphor here. Picture the scene. I'm walking on the street and I may see somebody interesting and I've got a reason to go over and talk to them. I said, excuse me, miss, I'm sorry to bother you, but I just saw you from over there. And I must say, I made a promise to myself, if I ever see a beautiful woman who takes pride in her appearance, I wanted her to know that there's at least one man on planet Earth that thinks she deserves an acknowledgement. And I just want to say that I think you look absolutely wonderful. That's what I say to people. Here's the reaction. Well, are you serious? I said, yes, you look fantastic. Not only that, you're obviously very beautiful. And I would say this, who do you take after genetically, your mum or your dad? She said, oh, my mother. Well, I said, I'd love to meet her because I know where you get it from. And then we would talk for a few minutes. And then I say, excuse me, miss, I'm a student of photography and I have a policy. If I engage anyone in conversation, I always ask them if I can make a photo. I would love to make that request of you. If you don't like it, I will delete it. But I want you to see what I saw in you. Okay, well, so, and then I would direct them. I said, just tilt your head slightly, look straight down the lens, squint your eyes. Now give me the Mona Lisa smile. Click. And then I show it to them. And they are blown away. One woman would burst into tears. And then she says to me, can you send that to me? It'd be my pleasure. Here's my card, but just to be safe, let me have your email and I'll send this to you later. What's going on here? It's not just about the photograph. It's about acknowledgement. One of the most beautiful things we magicians can do very quickly is to acknowledge people for breathing. We can acknowledge a person for existing. We can acknowledge someone for being extraordinary. Okay? And by doing this, it opens the door to a more interesting dialogue and conversation. Who knows? They may ask you, well, what do you do for a living? And they'll say, well, you're a magician. Oh, really? Oh, I love magic. Oh, really? You may do something very quickly, unplanned but spontaneous, to create that interesting moment for them. Some of my best experiences as a magician have come out of those interactions. They've given me the gift of their time. And I said, I would like to give you a little gift. I may print my business card on a blank piece of paper. And it's memorable because they see a blank card on both sides. And then I print my deed. That's very magical for a layman. And they go away feeling significant about themselves. So if you translate this into a performance, here's the question. When you are announced and you come out on stage, how quickly can you acknowledge the audience for being great people? One of my ways is, ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I want to thank you for being here tonight. You gave up your evening to come to the Magic Circle. So far, I hope you've enjoyed the experience. My job now is to take you into Wonderland. Shall we play?
Yeah, That's great.
Great.
Michael, I'm looking at the clock here because we want to allow time for people to chat to you directly. But before that, I'd like you to do me a favor. Do you have a deck of cards handy by any chance? No, you don't need to show them to me. It's okay. If you have one handy, yep. Well, I have one handy, Michael.
Yeah.
Now, on your word of honor and my word of honor, you didn't know I was going to do this, and neither did I.
No.
Okay, but there's a good reason why I'm doing it. Okay, there's a very good reason. I'm doing it particularly for one person here in the room. Very good reason. Okay, you've got your deck and I've got your deck is what color? Mine is blue.
Mine is red.
Yours is red. Okay. Michael, would you please take the top card and the bottom card off your deck?
Right.
Just take the top card and the bottom card. You don't need to show it to me.
Okay.
You don't need to show it to me. I'd like you to please select either your top card or your bottom card. Which one will you select?
I've got one.
Yes, which one would you select?
The top card.
The top card, fine. Which leaves me with the bottom card, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm now going to take my blue deck, blue, and spread it as best as I can on Zoom. Yes. I'm going to run my finger across here and very slowly. Should we come up? No, that's
Yes.
better. Yeah, very slowly. And you say stop at any given time.
Stop.
There?
Right.
Right. I'm going to remove this card from my blue deck.
Yes.
Michael, what is the card that's remaining, please?
The top card.
No, that's the one you chose and you gave me the
Right.
other one. What was the card you gave to me? What
The
is
bottom
it?
card.
Yes. Oh, okay. What is it, please?
7 of hearts.
Oh, wow. We are definitely in tune. Now, we never set this up, I promise you,
No.
my word of honor. No, we didn't. Michael's not going to lie to you. I might, but he won't. Now, there's a reason I'm doing it, because there's one person in this room, and I'm helping this particular person to put his act together. And I'll tell you what, now I'm going to reveal it. Would you all like to know how it was done over Zoom?
No, don't. I would rather not know. That was
You would
great.
rather not know. Okay, well, fair enough then. I won't reveal it. Okay.
That was great.
I will just thank you. We really didn't set this up. I had no
we
idea it was
didn't.
going to happen. It's what we call, and I refer to sometimes as opportunity magic.
Yes, got it.
Well, you got it. You now got it. You now know how it happened.
All right.
And to me, I love it because I love mischief. And that's one of the things that dear Eugene, who was like an uncle to me, we were almost the same age, but he was a little bit older. But we just love mischief. And there was sometimes in magic, you've got something there, but there's an opportunity that happens, you spot it, and you just go with it.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
having listened to, and of course, we can do this from now till Christmas next year because there's so much to share with Michael. All things being equal, we'll try and bring him on again sometime because he travels a lot. I mean, you've even been in Austria recently with Bill Chung, and you went to Hoffenser's house in Austria, didn't you? Hoffenser's up in Austria with Bill Chung a couple of months ago.
I was there last October. Fantastic.
Ah, there we are. Yeah, you went to actually see Hoffenser's place.
Yes.
I mean, how cool is
Beautiful.
that? Yeah. So what I want to do briefly in the little time we've got remaining is now to turn over to anybody here. Just raise your hand and, directly chat to Mike. I'll remove myself from the screen or I will be removed, and you pop your hand up and we will pick up from you. Yeah, I'll be removed from now. Eamon. Yes, sir. Off you go.
Hi there, Michael. It's great to meet you.
Hey, buddy.
Good
to see you.
Thanks very much. And I've always been a fan of yours. And I remember years ago, the first time I saw you was on I think it was the talent show on the one that Marty Kane presented.
New Faces?
That's the one, yeah.
With
And
Ken
I
Dodd.
remember, I remember the first time I saw you, you did the color changing silk, I think, and you did a few other routines.
Yes.
And I thought, my first thought was, this guy's got class, and you were quite funny as well with the money. You pretended to sort of rip it, and you were being very engaging with the audience. And I thought, this guy actually knows what he's doing, like what you've been talking about. If anybody who's seen that, you'll know. I think that's a great example. And fast forward years later, I was at the convention in London in 1994, and I think you were entering the close-up international competition at
That's
the
right.
Kennedy Hotel, and I saw you in the bar. I think I didn't come over to say hello. I should have done, but I didn't. It was about, oh, is that Michael Vincent? You had a hat on, very well dressed, classy, and I thought, when I found out that you were entering the competition, I was sitting in the audience. I thought, I'm looking at the person that's going to win this, because you did Everywhere, Nowhere, and a few other card effects. I thought, and I was looking at all the other people, and there were a lot of good guys there. Michael Webber was there, and
That's
a
right. Yes.
guy, Gaston, I think, and Terry Gayat, I think, and you won it. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh my goodness. So I've always been a fan of yours over the years. And fast forward again to when the lockdown was on, and where you talked about mental health, it affected me as well, because I've been a victim of trauma. But that's years ago. And when you did your shows on YouTube, it was so inspiring. I really enjoyed watching that, and that was instrumental in me getting the Darwin Ortiz books, which I have on my bookcase behind. You can't see it. I could turn the camera around, but don't know if you can.
Oh, brilliant! I can see them. I got my Darwin collection right here.
So I've always been a fan of yours, and I just like to see.
You've got the upgrade as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's how I do the routine now.
Yep.
Yeah. Save your face, best work.
That is amazing. I watched that, and how you approached it. I'm not going to give too much away, but how you approached it and everything, it's a really genuine improvement. So thanks very much for always being an inspiration to me.
Thank you so much.
And I'm trying my best to get better at my sleight of hand. So by watching people like you and Anthony and loads of other people. So I'll just leave it there.
Don't put me in the same league as him with sleight of hand. No way. I can't measure up to that. No. Not really. Every time someone comes to me and says, do you know how to do a double lift and a cross-cut force? And I go, no, but I know Michael Vincent.
I get paid for
saying. See our old pal Paul Abbey joined us eventually. Yes, you may have been here all along. I don't know.
Oh, so, great.
Who's got their hand up next, Mark? Let's see quickly. Oh, Paul's got your hand up. Okay, that'll do. Yeah, jump on in, Paul. How are you, sir?
How you doing? Yeah, very good. You might recall I've just good to see you, Mike.
Hello, Paul. Good to see you, pal.
Yeah, you might just recall I've just come out of surgery just a couple of weeks ago. So I've now got a bionic hip. So did you know that?
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Hope you're mending well, Paul.
I'm doing exceptionally well, and I put that down to my Tai Chi that Auntie and I are both into. And I noticed you're starting to get into it as well now. Are you following it?
My fourth session is on Monday.
Very good. I'm very impressed.
Great.
It's funny when we talk about mentors, because one of the things that I've discovered over the years is that now I teach Tai Chi. I don't have a master above me. So my thing that I discovered was a philosophy class that I got into a little while ago. And the philosophy class is absolutely brilliant because it goes way, way back into Indian Sanskrit and beyond, way back into Egyptian times. And as we know, magic goes back all that way as well, and religion goes all the way that way back as well. And I've got so much from that. And what you were talking about in your mental health side is some of my own demons that I've had to deal with over the last 10 years or so, particularly after my marriage split and everything that went wrong. And three things that really sprung to mind for me, listening to you, what helped you through your time, was three things that came from this philosophy course. And one of them was not now. Not now. And the not now thing is what happens when thoughts come into your head and you go, I don't have time for this now. And it's a bit like living in the present. So it's one of the first things we learned. The second one is learning how to pause. And I thought that was a really, really important thing to do on stage as well. learning what to do. You know that thing that happens just when you first come onto stage and you're taking that deep breath and you're waiting for the curtains to open, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff going through your head where you're kind of going, did I set that right? Did I do that right? Oh my God, is that in my pocket? And what you do is you learn to do a thing called pausing, which is just stop. And you look at something completely, totally unrelated to what you're about to do. And it's such a powerful thing, something to think about. And the other thing that I learned from this philosophy course is, what would a wise man say? What would a wise man say? And it's another one of those things that stops you in your tracks and really guides you.
Well, I'm glad you found philosophy to be a great anchor for you, Paul, because in the last 3 years, I've been studying the work of Carl Jung.
Yeah, and that comes in it. Yeah, yeah.
And I embarked on Carl Jung's process of individuation.
Right.
Individuation. Have you noticed when my mum died, you didn't see much of me? Nobody did.
No.
The only people that saw me were my students, but I didn't spend time around magicians.
Yeah.
Only on a Friday, I'd be at the circle, but I would leave immediately. I took myself off the pitch and spent time on my own by myself with my thoughts. I spoke to my therapist and we unpacked slowly everything. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You've got to be willing to face your shadow, because that is where your trauma lives. Your trauma lives in the shadow. And if I may use photography as a metaphor, the most interesting parts of an image is the areas of the image that have no light. It's the dark, it's the relationship between the light and the shadow that gives shape and form to the subject. What gives us shape and form is the dark areas of our life. It's easy to be confident and charming when a situation demands for it. But who are you when no one's watching? You are the product of your shadow. And until you bring peace to it, what kind of world are you inviting people to come into? So you've done it. I'm doing it for myself, because by doing that, when we step out in front of an audience, we're not hiding anything, because we've confronted the very dark parts of ourselves and brought peace to it. And that's what individuation does, because once you find peace for yourself, you are not going to give it up for anything or anyone that brings drama into your life, because drama equals trauma. You got that?
You remember that phrase from the old series?
What was the phrase?
I'm going to tell you. The shadow knows. You remember that series? Oh, yeah, Steve Allen's nodding his head. Yeah. Obviously, Steve, you're a hell of a lot older than you look.
I don't know about that, but when
it was a character. It was a comic book character. Yeah,
at the radio
I
show.
think it was a radio show. That was it. Yeah. The shadow
knows.
And
yes, it does.
like I said, I'm being silly to be serious. Yes, the shadow does know. Your shadow. Anyway, let's go to dear John, who's been very patiently waiting over there.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Well, listen, there's not a lot I can add to what's been spoken about tonight, but the most important thing I would like to say is you have been a friend to me for many, many years. An inspiration. You motivate many, many people. You give people a reason to watch magic as it should be, you know? And I fear that can be lost at times, you know? And you actually contribute to that. You're just a motivational person, and I'm proud to have you as a friend. And I'm sure other people would second that.
Absolutely, I do.
And,
I second that.
It's been a pleasure that I've met tonight and listened to your contributions and your love of books.
Mm.
the love of books. And for every student that I have, I try to lead them to the Stars of Magic, the Royal Road to Card Magic, which is my favorite book. Um, and people might see that as a basic kind of thing, but you take that book, you take it and present it in the right way. It's wonderful. But it's wonderful to see you tonight, sir. And I hope we can meet up very,
Well,
very shortly.
thank you, John. You know what? It's been such a privilege in my life to call you a friend because you were there right at the beginning when I joined, and
Yeah.
I've always admired you. You're a classy gentleman. You've treated me like family. I love your dear wife, Tess, and your family, and you've made me so welcome in your home and the secret shed. So it's all been great, and I'm so thrilled that you joined us this evening. Thank you. I've got a
I was so pleased to make it because
great. Let me ask you a quick question, okay?
yeah,
You mentioned the Royal Road to Card Magic. Just your opinion. Why do you think that book is so special?
I think that was an education. That was a book that educated anyone that had no idea about how to perform a card trick. It took you from the basic shuffles. It took you from the jog shuffle. It took you from here. And you know, I went at my club recently. I done the piano trick. You know, from the Royal Road to Card Magic.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and they were amazed. Where did it come from? And I said, it's the Royal Road to Card Magic. You know, so it's someone did make a quote years ago. The best of secrets are hidden within the chapters of a book.
The old ones.
Yes, and if you go back to your books, we try to learn too much magic, but if we give presentation in little things like the piano trick or kind of wonderful secrets that are hidden within chapters. But no, if there was any book, if someone said to me, take it on a desert island, I would take the Royal Road to Card Magic
Well, thank
every.
you for sharing that, John. Between you and me, there's a trick in the Royal Road that I close my show with.
Is it the looking glass, is it?
The lady's looking glass.
Yes.
I close my show with it.
Yes. And that's a beautiful, and your performance is wonderful. And it's all there, Mike. It's all there.
Yes, it is.
If you read it, it may not come out in the pages, but the presentation of the looking glass is just a wonderful, wonderful piece of magic.
If a magician feels joy for the work he's doing, the audience will celebrate with him.
Yeah, you've seen my cards to pocket, which comes out
Yes,
of
I have.
the Royal
Masterful.
Road,
Yes.
and I've had so many people say, "How is that done?" You know,
Yes.
which is a kind of, but they say if you can do the cards to pocket, 10 cards to pocket, they just disappear from your hands into your
Oh,
pocket.
marvelous. I saw
Oh,
your
yeah.
video. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
Ah,
brilliant.
thank you.
Brilliant, John. Brilliant.
When you get music that touches you, and music does touch you, what Mike does, Mike actually touches the soul,
Yes. Yes.
and the soul in magic. It's not tricks. It's
No.
not. It's a journey, and if anyone wants to experience and practice the art, the craft of magic, with people don't actually talk about it, is why are we doing it? What is
Good
it?
question.
Is it? Is it because we want to be clever, or is it? But what we want to do is share something that is beautiful and it's a soulful thing. And Mike does that. And we all try to actually, when we perform for people, it's not about our ego is about, let me take you on a journey. When a card is touched, it's a special card to you. It means something to you. Mike does that.
Yes, yes.
And I think a lot of magicians need to learn that, not a trick after trick or trick. It's just that kind of feeling, you know. And I
Thank
think,
you, John. Thank you.
I'll tell you who's a very good example of that, John. There are many, many examples, but the one that springs to mind is our dear pal Michael Finney. I mean, he's been doing his card on the forehead for centuries. I'd be silly to make a serious point, but people even go there. They're expecting him to do it. They know what's going to happen. It's going to be on his forehead, but
yeah,
and that is it. It's that
yeah,
painting,
yeah,
if you like,
yeah,
of the Mona Lisa over and over and over. But people get used to going, yeah, well, I can see him painting this. I want to sit there and watch him paint it.
yeah. But it's all coming back to it's rhythm. Is rhythm.
Yes, pace. Yep.
You can take a coin and a coin disappear. You can take a coin and there's so much in the craft of magic that people need to really analyze how they do things and why they do things. And Mike is a great example of what we all want to achieve in magic.
Absolutely. I see Stephen's got his hand up.
This may not be entirely coherent because it's tying to it's not a question. It's something of a comment on some of the topics that have been discussed. Mike's essay in Magical Meditations, and even some of the things that John was just mentioning. So I'm going to be positing a few things, but because I've been listening, I haven't been able to quite figure out how to word it. As Anthony said early on in the presentation, Mike's contribution to Magical Meditations, and they are all unique, is a terrific book if anybody doesn't have it.
Thank you.
I mentioned to Mike that I thought that some people might think, mental health in a book about magical meditations. If you just look at the titles of the 13 essays, you would think, why is that one in there? That has nothing to do. There was talk about doves or talk about presentation, things like that. And I had mentioned to Mike that I thought that it was perhaps one of the more important, if not the most important, essay in the book. But I hadn't fully processed why, and I knew it at the time. I said that I think that basically a lot of people are probably dealing with things like that more than they would openly admit. And I think Mike is a great example for somebody who is very candid with his history, his past, his thoughts, and things that he's dealt with. But it occurred to me when I think I started connecting it in this presentation when there was conversation about you can't open up a performance wanting something from the audience. You're there to give. And that connected some dots with me, both with magicians I've known and could think that, yeah, exactly. I think that I can see the difference in different people about their presentation with basically the folks who would be fairly cynical about some of the things Mike has said about mental health. I think those are the kinds of people who I don't think would be performing to give, but to receive. One of his very early YouTube videos, if you go back and sort it in reverse order, you'll see it. It's the one where he talks about all of his books. And that was the very first video I've ever seen by Mike. And it's a fantastic video. And one of the books that he mentioned at the end, the non-magic books, was, I don't know if you can really get the title here.
Dr. Robert Anthony.
Yes. And The Ultimate Secrets of Total Self-Confidence. And it's not about putting on self-confidence. It's a book about a deep dive into yourself. But it's also true. And I think it doesn't necessarily take, I'll suggest that it doesn't necessarily take someone who has had shadows or demons in their past that they've had to deal with in order to be able to give in a performance rather than trying to receive. It's something that has to come from deep inside
Right.
in order to be able to do that. And I definitely recommend folks, if they don't have Magical Meditations, it's a great book. Definitely pay
Well, thank you.
attention and read
Appreciate
Mike's book. This is a
it.
great one if you're trying to figure out yourself and who you are and what you're bringing to the table, because I think that's what allows someone like Mike to stand up in front of a crowd and, as you said, Anthony, come across like James Bond. Like he did, and even as you said, Mike, if somebody can't approach you and treat you with humanity, there's nothing that's going to do to impact you or to bring you down, because you're already coming into the environment, someone who is just fully solid and confident in their own skin.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Stephen. Let me ask you a quick question. What resonated with you from tonight's conversation?
It wasn't any one particular point. I think it was, generally speaking, you talking from the heart and openly and candidly about your past, things you dealt with, everything from dealing with Alan Allen as the some of the tough love he showed you when he was very critical of things, to the bullying you experienced as a kid, dealing with your mom's trauma, all of that factoring into the person who shows up with a deck of cards or a coin cylinder or a looking glass. Everything that forms that person who shows up. Who does that make you? Who are you when you're getting up there? Why should they care about you?
Absolutely right.
What gives you the audacity? What gives you the right that you deserve to get up there in front of people and present to them?
You said something quite significant, which I want to touch on. Why should they care?
Yeah.
If you can't answer that question, you've got no right standing there.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to give them a reason to care.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael. Gentlemen, we're coming up onto the 2-hour mark. I knew we wouldn't have enough time.
I think that's great. We can call it a wrap now. That's fine.
No, we'll call it a wrap. Let me express my personal and professional thanks to dear Michael.
Thank you.
To every one of our friends. You're very, very welcome. And we've been very privileged today to listen to not just sage words, but words of deep empathy and meaning. So thank you for those words. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Big shout out to behind the scenes, dear Mark Williams. Much appreciated. Made my job a lot easier. So thank you very much. And we will call this a wrap. So thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.